Hey, what's up guys? Want to do a real quick video on something that some of you guys might not be familiar with, and that's the SVD. It has a rangefinder, the PSO-1 optic that's attached to that rifle if you're playing as a designated marksman. That DMR has a rangefinder. So let's check it out and see exactly how this thing works. Okay, so right now I'm coming up on the ridge line. I'm quite a ways away from my squad. I'm to the north. My job right now is basically scout out the northern area and make sure that basically they don't get overrun. We know these guys are to our north. So the first thing I do, I get up on this ridge, try not to skyline myself, and I'm looking over at the other ridge, and right there I could see there's a building. So I'm looking at this building and I'm thinking, I wonder how far away that is. Now, looking at the map, it is extremely difficult to tell exactly where that ridge is. Yes, there are topographical lines and stuff like that, but it is still difficult unless you have a pretty dead-on landmark like a river or an MSR or something where you can see it on the map and you can cross-reference it visually. It's kind of difficult to tell, am I looking at it here, or is that the ridge, or is that rock, or is that tree, or is that bush? I mean, it's hard, especially at distances over probably 400 or 500 meters. So let's check out and see exactly what I just did. I'm calling it in now, and we have another guy to our northwest that's coming in that's basically running right up on top of that enemy position, that fob that I am spotting. He is coming in from the north. We all got wiped. We had to respawn. He was the only survivor. He's trying to rendezvous with us. So as I call it in, he's coming in from the north, and he ends up marking it on the map. Actually, he calls in an exact grid reference because he's right on top of it. It gets marked on the map, and you can see exactly how accurate I was just from basically using my optic. So just using an optic, how exactly are you supposed to essentially range an object and figure out its location? Now, keep in mind, squad is still in alpha. A lot of this stuff is different depending on the map you're on, and it is subject to change, well, really at any time. But this is the PSO-1 optic. You find this on the SVD, I think some AKs, I'm not sure. It is a Russian optic. To give you a really brief overview of how this thing works, you can essentially ignore the lines that are going horizontally where you see the numbers, well, the number's 10 on each side. Just ignore those. Look at the chevrons in the center. Those chevrons are essentially where you need to aim for point of aim, point of impact, depending on the range to the target. Now, how do you find the range? The scale to the left, that you have the upward slope on, where you see the numbers 10, 8, 6, 4, and 2, that is your ranging or your rangefinder. That's part of the reticle. It's a very important part of the reticle. And what you do is you take an object and you put it inside of that part of the reticle. And you want to measure essentially how tall it is from the bottom line to where it intersects the slope. And that's going to give you the range in hundreds of meters. So to give you a little bit of an idea of what that looks like, check this out. So what you see right here is taking a soldier's silhouette, putting it on that reticle, and again, you can see his feet are at the bottom line, and his head is near the top part of that slope where it intersects the number 2. So he is about 200 meters out. Now, if you were to, I don't know, if this guy was smaller, obviously he's further away. If his feet were on the bottom line and his head was just underneath the number 8, he is 800 meters away. It is kind of a rough estimate. I can't remember the exact number, but I know that the reticle is designed for a target that is 5 foot tall. So I believe the characters in game are probably between 5'11" and 6'1", just a rough estimate. But yeah, it gives you a decent idea of how far away someone is, and it's very, very, very useful. Now, as far as target acquisition and figuring out exactly how much you need to compensate for bullet drop, this here gives you a decent idea of that amount of compensation per chevron. The upper chevron, that is a 100-meter point of impact or point of aim, point of impact. So the rifle is zeroed for 100 meters. If you were to range a target out to 100 meters and put that chevron, or the tip of the chevron, exactly where you want that round to hit, it's essentially going to hit on that point. Granted, you'd have to reflect on the accuracy of the weapon and so on, but again, made simple, that is point of aim, point of impact. 200 meters is going to be the bottom of the top chevron. So the tip at the top is 100 meters. If you range for 200 meters, it's going to be at the bottom of that chevron. The tip of the next chevron is 300. The bottom of that one is 400. The tip of the next chevron is 500. And then the bottom of that one is 550. And then the next one is 700. And the bottom of that one is 750. And then the last one is 900. And the bottom of that one is 950. Now, obviously, 900 plus meter shots with this thing, yes, it is possible. But I really wouldn't. I wouldn't try to bet the farm that you're going to hit anybody that far away. Yeah, you could probably piss them off. You might be able to suppress them just a little bit or get them guessing, but I would not think that a 900 or 1,000 meter shot is going to hit home, even if you do aim center mass, point of aim, point of impact. And you know, you've done all the math. You know the exact range. I mean, these SVDs are not quite that accurate. But that said, you can range your targets. So you can see here exactly how I ranged to this target and then cross-referenced over to the map. Now it is going to be a little bit hard to make out. This was shot in 720p, but you do get the idea. That bunker I know is approximately 2.5 meters high, which is just over 8 feet. So your average guy is probably, I don't know, let's just say 6 foot because it's a nice even number. I've seen enough people standing next to these bunkers to know about how high their heads are in reference to those bunkers in game. So what I did was I placed the reticle over that bunker and then estimated visually about how high someone standing at that bunker would appear to me from my position in that reticle. And I took that number. The number I ended up getting, it was about 800 meters. 800 meters was close enough for me to at least try to range this thing on the map. Okay, so what I've done with the map here, the smaller grid blocks that we call keypads are approximately 100 meters. It varies from map to map, but on Fool's Road it's about 100 meters. So using that knowledge, if you drew a straight line from my line of sight, which I really wish this thing had a compass, like an ARMA that you could use on a map, but whatever. If you drew a straight line from where I'm at and where I'm looking, and then every 100 meters made a tick. You see 100, 200, 300, all the way up to 800. What you'll find is that the 800 line, 800 meters away, would be Echo 5 keypad 3, or about Echo 6 keypad 9. It's right there on the edge of that grid square. But that's about 800 meters. So that's what I called in. Said, hey, I could see a fob. I ranged it out. It looks to be about 800 meters from my pause. Echo 5 keypad 3, that general area. So I told the guy that was coming in from that general area, hey, be looking to your east. There's a fob coming up. I can see it. It should be just on the other side of that ridge. Be careful, there's probably troops. Just a couple minutes later, he ends up reporting back that he found it, had the exact grid location of at least 2 structures, and they were marked on the map that you can see here. So just for good measure, I'm going to go ahead and do a split screen, and you can see exactly how accurate my measurements were just using a ballistics reticle, the PSO-1. And you can easily see here that I was pretty much on the money with at least one of those buildings. I mean, probably within 50 meters or less. And that was simply using the PSO-1 ballistics reticle, using that rangefinder just to get a somewhat accurate range, just trying to eyeball, hey, I know about how tall someone is next to this structure, so if I bring this scope up, I should be able to say, okay, he's about X distance, and then take that to my map, count the little blocks, kind of estimate, and then give a grid coordinate. Things like this will win or lose battles. On top of that, being able to accurately get fire down on someone, just, you know, accurate fire down range is key as a designated marksman, on top of being able to report enemy troop movements and essentially just completing reconnaissance type tasks. But again, being able to say, okay, this guy is 600 meters. Yeah, I need to adjust my point of aim to here, so my point of impact will actually be here, instead of just eyeballing and guessing and, you know, wasting rounds and probably getting found out and shot in the face. But anyways, that's it. I hope this helps somebody out. I'm going to try to play around with the PSO-1 a little bit more. I love this game. Developers, dude, keep up the awesome job. I know it is alpha, things are changing, but I mean, this is amazing, and little things like this really make it worthwhile. So y'all have a great night, and yeah, hopefully I will see you on the battlefield.